Welcome everyone. In today's video, we're not just going to talk about English. We're going to train something inside your mind, your brain. Because speaking English fluently doesn't start from your mouth. It starts from your thoughts. It starts from the way your brain reacts, remembers, and connects ideas in English. And by the end of this story, you will understand how to train your brain to think in English naturally. So listen till the end and subscribe to our channel, American Accent. My name is Sam, and today I'll share something that changed my life completely. You see, for years I studied English the wrong way. I memorized grammar rules, learned long word lists, watched videos silently, and told myself, one day I'll speak. But when that day came, I couldn't. My mind went blank. I tried to translate every word from my language. And by the time I found the right words, the moment was gone. I felt slow, lost, and embarrassed. I thought maybe I wasn't smart enough, but I was wrong. The problem wasn't my memory. It was my brain's habit. My brain was trained to think in my native language, not in English. Every time I tried to speak, it translated word by word, sentence by sentence. That's why I sounded unnatural, broken, and nervous. But one day, something simple changed everything. I realized that my brain could learn English the same way it learned my first language. Through repetition, through emotion, through sound, through experience, not through rules. That was the day I began my journey to train my brain to think in English. And that's what I'm going to show you now, step by step. The first thing you must understand is this. Your brain is like a sponge, but it only absorbs what you use daily. If you keep living in your native language all day and only study English for 10 minutes, your brain won't switch. It stays comfortable in the old pattern. Thinking in English means changing that pattern. It means surrounding your mind with English words, English sounds, English thoughts. So your brain stops translating and starts reacting automatically. Let me give you a simple example. When you see a cat, what's the first word that comes to your mind? If it's your native language, your brain is still translating. But if the word cat comes instantly, congratulations. Your brain has begun to think in English. That's what we are training for. But to reach that point, you must give your brain daily English food. Small, short, simple, repeated. You don't need to study 10 hours. You just need to feed your brain English in natural ways many times a day. So, here's how I started. Every morning, I woke up and said one sentence out loud in English. Nothing big, just something simple like, "Good morning, Sam," or "It's a beautiful day today." At first, it felt strange, even funny. But after a few days, my brain began to accept it. It started expecting English in the morning. Then I changed my phone's language to English. Suddenly, every time I read a message or checked an app, my brain saw English words. Slowly, my brain stopped translating. It started connecting English words directly with actions. When I saw settings, I didn't think about translation anymore. I just knew what it meant. This is how you train your brain by removing the need to translate. Next, I began thinking simple thoughts in English during the day. For example, when I was walking to the bus, I would tell myself, "I am walking to the bus." When I was eating lunch, I would think, "This food tastes good." It might sound too easy, but that's exactly the secret. You don't need hard sentences. You need daily simple thoughts in English. Because every time you think in English, your brain builds a new connection. Every connection makes it faster next time. This is called brain wiring. The more you do it, the stronger your English network becomes. Then I created my favorite brain exercise, English moments. I decided that 3 times a day, no matter where I was, I would spend 1 minute thinking only in English. No translation allowed. I could be waiting in line, walking home, or washing dishes. I just started describing what I saw. The sky's blue. That man looks tired. I feel sleepy. 1 minute at a time. That's all. At first it was hard. My brain wanted to go back to my language, but I kept doing it. And something beautiful happened after 2 weeks. My brain started using English automatically. I didn't even try. I saw a cup and thought cup, not my language word. That's when I realized thinking in English was not magic. It was a habit. But I also discovered something else. The more I listened to English sounds, the faster my brain learned to think in English. Because language is sound, not text. Reading is silent. Thinking is sound. When you listen a lot, your brain absorbs rhythm, tone, emotion, and meaning without translation. So I started listening to short English audios daily, podcasts, dialogues, songs, even children's stories. I didn't understand everything. That was fine. I just listened and felt the sounds. Slowly, my brain began predicting what came next. That's how babies learn, by hearing again and again. I was doing the same. Here's a truth that changed my journey. Your brain doesn't care about difficulty. It cares about frequency. It's not how hard you study. It's how often you touch English. 1 minute 5 times a day is better than 1 hour once a week. That's how habits are born, through repetition, not perfection. So if you truly want to think in English, stop studying too much. Start living in English, even for small moments. Put English around you, your phone, your music, your thoughts, your mirror. When you make a cup of tea, say it in English. When you look at yourself, say, I look tired. When you go to sleep, whisper, good night. It's these small sentences that reprogram your brain. Thinking in English is not about knowing all the words. It's about connecting feelings, sounds, and meaning directly in English. That's why translating is dangerous. When you translate, you break the flow. You slow down your thoughts. But when you think directly, you feel free. You speak faster with confidence because your brain is no longer jumping between two languages. That's how real fluency starts. And you can do it. Anyone can. You just need to practice small thoughts daily. Listen to natural English and give your brain permission to make mistakes. Now let's pause for a moment and imagine something. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and your first thought is in English. You walk to the mirror and say, I feel fresh today. You smile. You think, let's have breakfast. No translation, no stress, just natural thinking. That's what we are building. It doesn't happen in one day, but it happens step by step exactly like this. That's the beginning of the story. The real transformation starts when you connect your brain, your mouth, and your emotions together. And that's what we'll explore next. So now tell me, do you want me to continue with the next 1,000 words? Where Sam learns how to stop translating completely and starts living inside the English language? Sam's journey continued the next morning. He woke up early, still half asleep. But before his brain could slip into his native language, he whispered softly, good morning. It was quiet, simple, and short, but it was English. That one small sentence was like pressing a switch in his brain. It told his mind, "We are in English mode now." He repeated it again, this time with a smile. "Good morning?" It felt natural. He didn't translate. He didn't think about grammar. He just said it. That's how his brain slowly began to accept English as a living part of his day. He noticed something interesting. After 1 week, every time he used English, even for a few seconds, his brain reacted faster. When he looked at the clock, the time came to him in English. When he saw food, the words apple, bread, milk came instantly. It wasn't about memorization anymore. It was about connection. He realized his brain wasn't a machine to fill with words. It was a garden to water with experiences. The more moments he gave his brain in English, the faster it grew new language roots. One afternoon, Sam went for a walk in the park. He decided to practice thinking in English silently, just inside his head. He looked around and started describing what he saw. The grass is green. The sky is blue. That boy is running fast. The dog is happy. At first, he spoke slowly, but soon his thoughts began to flow. The sentences connected like a small story. The dog is running. The boy is laughing. The sun is warm. I like this place. He was no longer translating. He was thinking. That was the moment he smiled and realized something big. He was living inside English. But there was still one problem. Sometimes when he spoke to others, his thoughts became messy. He wanted to say something fast, but his mind froze. He felt pressure. He forgot words. His fluency disappeared. He realized that when he was relaxed and alone, his English brain worked perfectly. But when he felt nervous, his old language came back. So he decided to train his brain to stay in English even when speaking under pressure. He created a fun method called shadow talk. Every night he stood in front of the mirror and talked to himself in English for 2 minutes. It didn't matter what he said. He just spoke freely without planning. Sometimes he said things like, "I'm talking to myself, that's funny." Or, "I don't know what to say, but I will keep talking." The goal wasn't perfection, it was flow. The brain learns to think in English by hearing your own voice in English. The more he did it, the more confident he became. After 1 week, his sentences were longer, smoother, and faster. Then he added another step. He began shadowing English videos, short ones like 1-minute clips from YouTube. He listened carefully and repeated every sentence out loud, trying to copy the tone, rhythm, and speed of the speaker. At first, it was hard. His mouth couldn't move fast enough, but he didn't stop. He paused, repeated, and tried again. Slowly, his brain began to catch the sound patterns of English. And that was powerful because sound is the language of the brain. He started noticing how his thoughts began forming in rhythm. English has a natural beat, and his brain started dancing to it. Sentences like, "What are you doing?" or "I don't know," came out automatically. He didn't have to remember them. They became part of his natural speech. He realized fluency wasn't about knowing everything. It was about training the brain to respond automatically through rhythm and emotion. Then something magical happened one evening. He was cooking dinner and accidentally burned the rice. Without thinking, he said, "Oh no, I burned it." It came out instantly, emotionally, naturally, no translation. He froze for a second and laughed. That was the first time he felt English come alive from inside him, not from a book or a lesson. His brain had finally begun to think emotionally in English. This emotional connection became his secret key. He understood that when English carried feelings like surprise, joy, anger, or laughter, his brain remembered it deeply. So he started adding emotion to his daily English thinking. When he saw something beautiful, he said, "Wow, that's amazing." When something went wrong, he said, "Oh no," or "That's not good." These small emotional reactions trained his brain to respond in English automatically, the same way it responded in his native language. Now Sam's brain had begun to change, but he wanted to go deeper. He wanted to stop translation completely. So he tried one powerful trick. He called it the English mind bubble. For 1 hour a day, he created an English-only world around him. During that hour, everything he saw, read, or said had to be in English. He listened to an English podcast, watched an English video, and talked to himself about what he was doing. I'm opening the window. I'm making tea. I'm checking my phone. There were no rules, no books, no fear, just living in English. At first, his brain fought back. It wanted to go back to his native words. But after 5 days, something shifted. His brain started staying inside the bubble even after the hour ended. He noticed that English phrases would pop into his mind randomly during the day while eating, walking, or working. His thoughts became half English without effort. That's when he knew his brain was no longer learning English. It was thinking in it. Sam realized that training your brain to think in English is not about time or talent. It's about mindset and consistency. When you make English your environment, even for a few minutes each day, your brain adapts naturally. It doesn't need permission. It just needs repetition. He often said to himself, "Now my brain learns what I live." And he was right, because English was no longer something he studied. It was something he lived. Sam's transformation deepened over the next few weeks. The change was no longer only in his words. It was in his mind, his emotions, even the way he saw the world. He began noticing that when he thought in English, his feelings felt lighter, calmer, more focused. It was as if English had its own energy, its own rhythm that shaped how he reacted to life. When he spoke in his native language, his thoughts felt fast and emotional. But in English, his thoughts became clear and balanced. That's when he realized language doesn't just change what you say, it changes how you think. He started to test this new awareness. One morning, while drinking coffee, he decided to describe his feelings in English. "I feel peaceful. The coffee smells nice. The sun looks warm." It was simple, but it made him smile. He wasn't studying anymore. He was experiencing English. His thoughts were connected to his senses, to smell, touch, sound, and sight. That's when he understood a deep truth. The brain learns through the senses, not through memory. When you connect English to what you see, hear, or feel, your brain keeps it forever. So he built a new daily ritual. Whenever he experienced something, he used English to describe it in the moment. When it rained, he whispered, "The rain feels cold." When he felt tired, he said, "I need rest." When he was happy, he said, "This is a good day." Every sentence, no matter how short, became a bridge between his thoughts and the English world. His brain was learning faster now, not because of grammar, but because of living. He also noticed something powerful about silence. Sometimes when he didn't know what to say, he stayed quiet but listened deeply. He listened to the sounds of people talking in English online, the rhythm of sentences, the pauses between words. That silence was not empty. It was learning. His brain was processing patterns, tones, and emotions without him realizing it. The more he listened, the more natural his thoughts became. Then came the most important step, connecting his inner voice to English. Everyone has that little voice inside, the one that talks when you're alone, when you plan, when you worry, when you dream. Sam decided to turn that voice into English. At first, it was strange. His inner thoughts still appeared in his native language, but he kept trying. Every time he caught himself thinking in his language, he gently switched. For example, when his mind said, "I need to go now," in his native tongue, he repeated it softly in English. "I need to go now." Day by day, his inner voice began to change. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Soon, when he thought about tomorrow, the sentences appeared in English naturally. "Tomorrow will be good. I should finish that work. I'll call my friend later." That was the real victory, not speaking to others, but speaking to himself in English. Because once your inner voice switches to English, translation disappears forever. But Sam wanted to go even deeper. He wanted to feel like English was not something outside of him, but something inside him, a part of his soul. So he began writing short thoughts in a notebook every night before sleep. He called it his English journal. He didn't worry about grammar. He just wrote what he felt. "Today, I felt proud. I made a mistake, but I learned. I feel thankful for this day. This small habit changed everything." Writing helped him slow down his thoughts and see how English reflected his feelings. His brain learned not only to think in English, but also to feel in English. Weeks passed, and one morning he woke up with a surprising thought. He had dreamed in English. It was short, simple, but completely in English. That dream showed him that his brain had accepted English as a natural language. It was no longer something he studied. It had become a part of who he was. That day he smiled and said to himself, "Now English is not my second language, it's my second mind." He realized this is what fluency truly means, not speaking fast, not using big words, but living in English without fear, without translation. He wanted to share this journey with others. So he created a small group online where people from different countries could practice English thinking. Instead of teaching grammar, he guided them to think and feel in English. They shared daily habits, talking to themselves, describing their day, listening actively, keeping small journals. In just 2 weeks, everyone began noticing change. They spoke faster, felt more confident, and their fear started to fade. Sam understood then that this was not only about him, it was a universal method. He told them, "Stop chasing perfection. Start living in English. Think small, repeat often, and listen more than you speak. Your brain will do the rest." Because that's how our brains are built to adapt, to grow, to transform with what we feed them. As his journey continued, Sam felt something spiritual about it. Thinking in English had opened his mind to new emotions, new ideas, and new parts of himself he never knew before. He could express feelings he couldn't describe in his native tongue. English became not only a tool of communication, but also a tool of understanding of himself and the world. And now his message to you is simple. You can do this too. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. When you wake up, say one sentence in English. When you walk, describe what you see. When you feel something, name it in English. When you listen, don't translate. Just feel the rhythm. When you speak, don't fear mistakes. Every mistake is proof that you're training your brain. Remember, your brain learns through emotion, sound, and experience. The more English you live, the faster you will think in it. You don't need books. You need moments. You don't need translation. You need connection. And maybe one night, just like Sam, you'll dream in English too. And that dream will show you that you finally crossed the invisible bridge between learning English and living in it. So before you go, try this simple exercise tonight. Look around your room. Pick 5 things and name them in English. Then describe how you feel. Say it softly. I feel calm. I am ready for tomorrow. And when you wake up, start your day with one English thought. That's how the journey begins. One thought at a time. The next morning, Sam woke up before sunrise. The world outside was quiet. The air was soft and cold. He sat by the window holding his cup of tea and watched the light slowly appear. Without thinking, he whispered, "It's a beautiful morning." The words came naturally like breathing. There was no translation, no effort. It was just there, simple, true, and alive. That's when he realized that English was now the first voice inside his mind. It felt gentle, calm, and close to his heart. He didn't study anymore. He lived in English. But something else began to happen. Sam noticed that English had started to change not only his language, but his life. When he thought in English, his thoughts were shorter, clearer, and more peaceful. He no longer overthought everything. English made him slow down and see things simply. It made him feel free from confusion. He began to understand that language is not only about communication, it's also about perception. When you think in another language, you see the world through new eyes. You become a different version of yourself. That day, Sam decided to test this idea. He went outside for a walk and promised himself that for the next hour he would live completely inside English. No translation, no switching. Every sound, every image, every thought had to be in English. He walked past a small park and the first words came. The leaves are falling. The wind touched his face and he said softly, "The wind feels cool." A child laughed nearby and the words appeared. That sound is beautiful. His mind was alive with English sentences, simple, natural, emotional. He didn't even try. They just came. Halfway through the walk, he sat on a bench and smiled. For years, he had feared English. He had seen it as something difficult, something outside of himself. But now it felt like home. He could feel the meaning of every word. Not because he memorized it, but because he lived it. That's when he realized the secret to fluency is not knowing more. It's feeling more. When you feel English, you remember it forever. Later that day, Sam met his friend Lisa, who was also learning English. She was struggling with the same problem. She understood English, but couldn't think in it. Sam shared his journey with her. He told her, "Your brain can learn English naturally, but you must stop translating. Translation is like a wall between you and real English. You don't break the wall by force. You break it by habit. Small, daily, real habits." Lisa asked him, "But how can I stop translating? It happens automatically." Sam smiled and said, "I know. It happened to me too. But I trained my brain to switch gently. When your mind says something in your language, don't fight it. Just repeat it softly in English. Do it again and again. After some days, your brain will stop using your language by itself." Lisa decided to try. She followed Sam's advice. For the next week, she began talking to herself in English. Short, simple sentences. At first, she made many mistakes. Sometimes she didn't know the right word, but she didn't stop. She used easy words instead. Instead of saying, "I am disappointed," she said, "I feel not good." Instead of, "I'm exhausted," she said, "I am very tired." She realized she didn't need perfect English to think in English. She just needed English that worked. That was the moment her fear started to disappear. Sam watched her progress and smiled. He saw in her the same change that had once begun in him, the change from fear to freedom. One evening they met again, and Lisa said happily, "Sam, I think I had my first English thought today. I saw the rain, and the first word in my mind was rain, not my language, English." Sam laughed softly and said, "That's it. That's the beginning. Once your brain does that once, it will do it again and again. That's how it grows." Days passed, and Sam started to enjoy teaching others. He shared his small methods with friends online. The morning sentence, the mirror talk, the 1-minute thinking practice, the emotion connection. People began sending him messages saying how their lives were changing. One person wrote, "I finally stopped translating. Now I dream in English." Another said, "I can speak faster now because I think faster." Sam realized his story was not only his own. It was everyone's story who had ever wanted to feel fluent. One night, he sat at his desk and opened his journal again. He wrote slowly, "Today, I helped someone feel brave in English." Then he paused and added, "Maybe that is the real meaning of fluency, to share what you've learned." He looked at his words and smiled. They were simple, but they carried something deep, emotion, memory, and truth. English had become his second heart. As he sat there, he began to think about the next step. He asked himself, "If thinking in English changed my mind, what else can it change?" He closed his eyes and imagined a world where people from different countries could think and speak freely without fear or barriers. A world where language was not a wall but a bridge. And for the first time, he understood that English wasn't just a skill. It was a connection. It connected minds, emotions, and hearts. The next morning when he woke up, he said softly, "Today I will live in English, not just speak it." And that simple promise became his way of life. He didn't study. He didn't memorize. He just lived one thought at a time, one emotion at a time in English. And maybe somewhere his story is just beginning. Because when your mind starts thinking in a new language, you don't only learn words, you learn a new way to be. Sam's life began to feel different now. Every day carried a quiet sense of discovery. The world around him looked the same, but he noticed things he had never noticed before. The soft sound of footsteps, the color of morning light, the way people smiled at each other. English had opened his eyes in a new way. It was no longer just a language in his mind. It had become a lens through which he saw life itself. When he thought in English, his thoughts felt simple, peaceful, and kind. It was as if his heart had learned to breathe in another rhythm. One afternoon, he decided to join an online conversation group. It was a small, friendly space where people from different countries met every evening to talk in English. Sam was nervous at first. His hands felt a little cold as he waited for the session to begin. He reminded himself, "Don't be perfect. Be present." When the screen lit up, he saw faces from Brazil, Japan, Egypt, and Turkey. Everyone looked shy but curious, just like him. The host smiled and said, "Let's start by introducing ourselves." When it was Sam's turn, he said slowly, "Hello everyone, my name is Sam. I'm from India. I started thinking in English some months ago, and now it feels like a part of me." The group smiled warmly. One person said, "That's beautiful, Sam. I also want to think in English like that." That small sentence made Sam's heart glow. For the first time, he felt connected to people he had never met before. They came from different cultures, but English had brought them together in one shared space, one human language. As the meeting continued, they talked about small things: food, weather, daily life, dreams. But something magical happened. Everyone began speaking more freely without fear of mistakes. They laughed, shared stories, and listened to each other. Sam noticed that when he listened carefully, his mind didn't translate anymore. He understood the meaning through the tone, the rhythm, and the emotion in their voices. He realized that real understanding comes not only from words, but from feeling. After the session ended, Sam sat quietly for a few minutes. He felt something warm inside. Not pride, but connection. He understood that language is not just about speaking fluently. It's about feeling together. When people think in the same language, their hearts begin to move closer. That night, he wrote in his journal, "Today, I didn't just speak English. I shared English." The next few weeks, he joined the group every evening. Sometimes they discussed deep topics like happiness, fear, and hope. Sometimes they just talked about daily things. But each conversation helped Sam grow. His confidence became natural. He didn't prepare words anymore. The right sentences came at the right time, like water flowing from a spring. The others noticed too. One member said, "Sam, you sound so natural now. How did you do it?" Sam smiled and said, "I stopped learning English. I started living it." He explained his simple method: small thoughts, emotional connection, daily repetition, and no translation. Everyone wanted to try it. They began sharing their own English moments every day. Short clips, voice notes, little stories of how they thought in English for 1 minute while cooking, walking, or watching the rain. Soon the group became like a family. They supported each other, corrected each other gently, and celebrated every small success. One evening, the host asked everyone a question. "How does thinking in English make you feel?" There was a pause. Then Sam spoke softly. "It makes me feel free." When I think in English, I don't feel like I'm trying to be someone else. I just feel like myself, but clearer, calmer, more open. Others nodded. A girl from Japan said, "Yes, it's the same for me." In English, I can express feelings that I can't explain in my own language. Another said, "When I speak English, I feel connected to the world." That conversation stayed in Sam's heart for a long time. He realized that English was not just about understanding grammar or vocabulary. It was about building bridges, invisible bridges between people, cultures, and hearts. It was about creating a shared space of understanding. He remembered how lost he used to feel, trapped inside translation, afraid to speak. And now he was guiding others to freedom, not through lessons, but through experience. One morning he received a message from Lisa. She wrote, "Sam, something amazing happened today. I spoke with a tourist in English and I didn't translate once. It just came out naturally." Sam smiled when he read it. That small message showed him how far both of them had come. It wasn't only about learning words anymore. It was about trust. Trusting the mind to flow. Trusting the moment to guide the words. Later that day, Sam went for another walk in the park. The same park where months ago he had started describing things in English to himself. Now everything felt different. The same trees, the same sky. But his world had grown wider. He saw people talking, children laughing, birds flying, and in his heart he said softly, "This is my English world now." He knew he had changed from the inside, not just as a learner, but as a human being who could now understand others in another language. Before leaving the park, he sat on the same bench where he had once practiced his first English sentences. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." It wasn't just for English. It was for the journey, for the patience, for every mistake that became a step forward. He realized that language learning is never really finished. It's alive, always growing, always deepening, just like the person learning it. That night, as he prepared for sleep, he whispered one last thought. "Tomorrow I will keep thinking in English. I will keep living in it." And with that simple promise, he closed his eyes, calm, peaceful, and proud, because now English was no longer something he was learning. It was something he was. The next morning began quietly. Soft sunlight came through the window, touching Sam's face. He opened his eyes slowly, feeling a deep calm inside. His room was silent, but his thoughts were already awake in English. It felt natural now, like breathing. He didn't even try. The words formed in his mind easily, gently, without effort. "Good morning," he whispered to himself, smiling. It wasn't just a word anymore. It was a feeling, a connection between his inner world and the world outside. That day, he sat by his window with a cup of tea and thought about his whole journey. He remembered the first time he tried to think in English. It was hard, confusing, full of pauses. He used to translate everything word by word, afraid of mistakes. But slowly, he learned to let go. He realized that language grows like a plant. It needs time, sunlight, and care. You can't force it to bloom in one day. You must water it with practice, trust, and patience. Sam decided to start something new, a small online community called Think in English Together. He wanted to help others feel what he had felt, the freedom of thinking in another language without fear. He posted his first message. Welcome, friends. This is not a classroom, it's a garden. Here we grow thoughts in English. People began to join from different countries, different ages, different stories, but they all shared one dream: to speak English naturally from the heart. Every evening, Sam would post a short reflection or question. What did you notice today in English? What made you smile in English? Did you speak to yourself kindly today? People replied with little moments. I ordered food in English. I watched a movie and understood a line without translation. I thought in English before sleeping. These were small steps, but to Sam, they were golden because he knew that fluency begins in the quietest moments when no one is watching, when you simply think and feel in English. One night, Sam received a message from a boy named Rafael from Brazil. It said, I always feel afraid when I speak English. I forget words. I feel stupid. What should I do? Sam took a deep breath and smiled softly. He replied, Don't fight your fear. Sit with it. Talk to it in English. Say, Hello, fear. I see you, but I will still speak. Fear is not your enemy. It's just a signal that you're growing. The next day, Raphael replied, I tried it. I spoke even with fear, and it worked. That message made Sam realize something profound. The real secret of language learning isn't only about grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation. It's about courage. The courage to stay present, to speak when your heart shakes, to express when your mind doubts. The moment you stop hiding behind translation, you start living in the language. Weeks turned into months. The community grew bigger. People started sharing voice notes, reading short poems, telling small stories of their days in English. Sam listened to them with joy. He could hear their progress, not just in words, but in emotion. Their voices carried honesty, hope, and light. They were not just learning English, they were becoming it. One evening, the group decided to hold a live meeting. Everyone on video speaking freely. When the time came, Sam joined the call and saw dozens of smiling faces. He felt a lump in his throat. He said softly, Look at all of us. Different countries, different languages. But right now we are one because we think in English, we feel in English, and we understand each other beyond borders. The group clapped and laughed. Some even had tears in their eyes. Then someone asked, Sam, what's the final step? How do we master English completely? Sam thought for a moment and said, You don't master English. You merge with it. You stop being a learner. You become a voice. The goal is not to speak English perfectly. The goal is to speak as English, to let it flow through you like music. The group fell silent for a moment, absorbing his words. It wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about connection. After the call ended, Sam went outside. The night sky was full of stars. The air felt calm and wide. He looked up and whispered, Thank you, life, for teaching me through words. He realized that English had not only given him a new voice, it had given him a new way to understand the world. He could now feel the rhythm of thoughts, the beauty of silence, the melody of meaning in every sentence. He remembered his first sentence months ago. I want to think in English. And now he smiled because that wish had come true and gone even deeper. He didn't just think in English, he felt, dreamed, and lived in it. English was no longer a subject he studied. It had become a second soul. As the night grew quieter, Sam closed his eyes and thought, maybe the real secret of learning is love. When you love a language, it starts loving you back. He smiled, peaceful and full of gratitude. The journey that began with small steps had turned into something timeless, a way of life, a connection between hearts across the world. And so his story ended not with a full stop, but with a continuation. Because every morning somewhere in the world, someone new whispered their first English thoughts softly, shyly, bravely, just like Sam once did. And that's how the story of learning never truly ends. It simply passes from one heart to another. One thought, one word, one beautiful moment at a time.